Welcome to another DMIS tutorial. Today we are diving into feature lines in AutoCAD Civil's 3D. We'll be using a 2D drawing that we previously converted from a PDF and aligned it to coordinates. If you followed our earlier tutorials, you know exactly how we got here. Okay, before we dive into drawing, let's talk a bit more about feature lines. In Civil's 3D, a feature line is essentially a 3D polyline with elevation assigned to its vertices. It's a powerful tool for grading because you can control elevation changes precisely along the line. I'm going to show you what exactly I mean with that. But first, what we're going to do, I already create my layer. I will advise you to create exactly the same, create a layer and make it current. So after we start chasing our model, so we're gonna use that, let's call it a shared drive for a model. We're gonna chase all the edge lines along, all the channel lines, all the way around with the polyline until we come to the end and literally completely loop our model. Our polyline is gonna be completely closed. Now there is two ways to create the feature line. One way is going to be from object, which I'm going to show you in a minute. We're going to create a polyline, and from that polyline we're going to create a feature line object. And the other method is creating a feature line as we go, drawing the feature line as we go. But first we're going to start with creating a feature line from object. So the object can be arc. The objects can be arcs, polylines, lines, and 3D polylines as well. Okay, so let's dive into. First, we're gonna start with the command PL, which stands for polyline. Let's start from the descent of the shared drive. We're gonna create a point, a joint everywhere where we got proposed level. Okay, and as well must have a level by tangent points. Now along this radius over here, what we can do, we can use the command arc within the polyline, the subcommand arc. So if I click on arc, he's going to let me create a little arc lines just to follow. Now I'm gonna have to carry on down to that corner and all the way up. Let's switch back to subcommand line. So you can press on line here or just click L and you're gonna return back drawing a straight line. Now I'm gonna create as well another joint by each of my gullies. The purpose of that is I wanna see what the level is gonna be done by my gullies to make sure I got plenty of fall towards the gully. Okay, let's skip fold edge line. Again, like I say, it's good just to create a joint everywhere where you got proposed level. Okay, let me create one more point down by that gully and down by the proposed level. Okay, to the next one, and the next one. So we're pretty much back to the start. All we need to do is just to close that line work. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna click enter so I can escape from my initial command polyline. Then what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna select my polyline by itself. I'm gonna scroll down in the property tab until I see my MISC and under close I can click on yes, and that is gonna automatically close and loop my whole model. This way I'm sure there is no any gaps left. It's important to create a loop model or a close line work model, polyline work model, if you're gonna create a surface from that line work. Okay, next step is converting the polyline from type polyline to type future line. Okay, object of type polyline and to object of type future line. Right, it's important to know you can find your future line button shortcut under Civil's 3D environment. Okay, under the home screen we got future lines drop down. Let's click on the drop down and then down to create future line from object. I usually select my object first and then click create future line of object. Now let me explain what option what it is. Site, at the moment we're gonna skip talking about site. We're gonna go to the next. Style is gonna stay standard. In our case we don't wanna change the style. The different style is different line, different labels. Okay, so we're gonna stay on standard. Now this is important over here to be know what we want to do. We want to keep our line to the selected entity layer, which is mean whatever is the initial polyline layer is gonna put the new future line on the same layer. In our case is driveways. Okay, and this is really important to know. Do not switch off or untick that selection, that option, for the simple reason what's going to happen if you switch this one off and press OK, it's going to create a new future line on top of your polyline. And we don't want that. We want only one line. So what is going to happen is going to copy all the positions, all the line works into our new future line, and it's going to delete your initial polyline. So let's try to see what's going to happen. Let's press OK. And if I select the line now, again, it's no longer object of type polyline, but it's a future line. And once when I select my future line, straight away is giving the ribbon on the top is changing to the one which is a future line. Okay, it's give you the properties and editing tools to edit future lines. Okay, if I escape again, you will see that property no longer exists over here. If I select my future line again, you can see now it's giving me the opportunity to edit my future line with different editing tools. Right, let me explain what it is. The first thing, one of the most common used editing tools for a future line is Quick Elevation Editor. So if I click on this one, what's going to happen? Everywhere where I hover along the line, it is giving me the ability to rapidly change the levels. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start from this end. Okay, I'm going to click on that corner. Now it's asking me to specify elevation. I'm going to go with 15.500. I'm going to slide along till I see the next level. This one is going to be 15.65. I'm going to go 15.68. Again, I can pass the grade. You can see that arrow in the middle. Okay, so I can just literally regrade everything by clicking that little arrow. Okay, so if I point this way, it's going to change that elevation based on that one. Okay, but if I point to the left, what is going to happen, because I already applied that elevation 15.680, is going to apply extra grade from that point to that point based on what I want to be. So at the moment that point is 0 elevation. Just to show you for example, I'm going to click on grade. No, sorry, that's wrong of me. The arrow needs to point up, so I'm going to click and I say Right, I want to change to slope. Slope is a bit more easy for me. You can use grade if you want. I know the grades, so the grades are multiplied by 10 millimeter. This is your grade. So if you want to be, let's say, at 20 mil per meter, we're gonna type to, apologize, we're gonna type to, let's say this is gonna be 20 mil per meter. Let's press enter. And what's gonna happen now is gonna apply extra 20 mil per meter from that point to that point, which in our case is, it looks like a 10 meters here. Then 20 by 10 is going to be extra 200 mil nearly. Okay, but what we're going to do, we're going to carry on using the proposed elevation. So I'm going to change this one again back to 15.680. Funny, I noticed this is a bit flat down here all the way. But we're going to talk that for that one in a minute. Okay, let's go again 15.68. Okay, we got a level here which we can use. I'm just wondering why I don't have a level here. Yeah, let's use this one, 15.600. Let's go to 15.53 on that one, 15.53. Okay, then we got 15.45, 15.45. Pretty much we're gonna edit the level everywhere where we got given level. Right, we can skip this one because we don't know what the point is going to be here. We can go to the next one, 15.05, 14.9, 15.05. What I can do, I can actually show the label, the labels. Future lines give you the ability to show the so-called smart labels. Okay, so what the smart label does, if I select my future line, it's going to let me to add the label. We're going to go multiple segments. So what multiple segments does, they give a level everywhere where we got a line or a joint to the line. So let's create, click on multiple segments. Let's click on our future line. Okay, and there you go. We just create a bunch of loads of labels. What I'm going to do, I already got pre-made styles. I'm going to select the style which is going to give me my elevations as we go. Okay, as you can see, it doesn't give me my elevations here because this is a curve. Okay, so for the curve it's different labels which I haven't created one at the moment. I've got only grade. Anyway, I'm gonna explain a little bit furthermore regarding the labels in the future tutorial. At the moment, all I want is to be able to see how is my level change across. Let's select our future line. Let's go to, again, elevation editor. Click on that one, 15.5, enter. Okay, we're gonna skip this one. We're gonna go to the next one, 15.280. Okay, let's zoom close to that one. This one is gonna be 15.450, 15.600, 15.5. Okay, let's skip to the next point, 15.5 again. So if we regrade from that point to that point, what we're going to do, we're going to create a literally level elevation. So I'm going to explain in a minute what we're going to do. In a minute, we're going to want to have another point up here, which is going to be pretty much 15.6, and that is going to act like a little high point back towards that way and back towards this way. As you can see, we're dead flat up here, which is absolutely wrong. Okay, we should be so flat back here. You can see from here to here we're flat, and then we got a little bit fall back this way. So what we can do is we can create a high point here where A is proposed, or we can play with that point what we got down here. I'm just trying to see what other levels we got here. 15.6, so we're dropping down, and then we're supposed to go down that line. But because the levels are completely flat here and here, all we're gonna have a crossfall which is gonna hold the water up in here. Okay, so what we're gonna do, we're gonna create a high point somewhere in here. Let's carry on. We came to the stage. Actually, we can create a high point now. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna hit enter to exit the previous command I was, and now I'm gonna select insert elevation point. So what the elevation point is gonna do is gonna create elevation point somewhere along the line. You can see I can go left and right. All I can do is I can create a point only along the line without changing the direction of the line. If I want to create a PI point which is going to allow me, right, okay, let's go, is going to allow me to change the direction of the line as well, not only create elevation but changing the direction of the line. Okay, I don't want to change the direction on the line, that's why I'm going to hit escape. I'm going to go again to insert elevation point. And now let's say we're going to create a point somewhere up here, which is going to be a halfway between. Now let's create something like 15.550 up here. Okay, let's go 15.550 elevation, and now we create some sort of high point. Right, let's keep editing our points. We're gonna go to 15.550 here as well, 15.500, and this one is gonna be 15.450. And now with that, we pretty much at elevation everywhere where we need, everywhere where we got the proposed level. We still got a couple of zeros along the lines. What I'm gonna do quickly, I'm gonna convert the actually I'm gonna create a few more points here, 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 and here. So once when I explode that future line, is gonna go back to normal, to a normal polyline. Okay, the reason I'm doing that is because I had so let me create one more point here. I had the arc model here, which it didn't give me the labels I needed. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna convert the polyline again back to the future line, just like this. There you go, we're back as a future line. Let's create labels again, multiple segments. Let's click on our line. Let's select one of our labels and select similar. Now let's change again our label style back to elevation, and as you can see, now I got levels along my radius. Okay, so we got quite a lot of zeros. What the zeros do, this is the places where we haven't applied any elevation. So at the moment, if we check our detail line work under front perspective, you will see we got quite a lot of spikes because we had that zero elevation between the points. Okay, let's go back to normal. So what we can do to correct them zero elevations is simple. We can set grade between this point and the point between the first point with proposed elevation to the next point with proposed elevation. What is going to happen is going to regrade everything in between them points. So I'm going to show what's going to happen now. It's quite easy, but before that, I see that point is not the level what I need. The level I need is supposed to be 15.6. Just like that. Okay. Right. So this is the set grade 2. Like I explained, I'm gonna click on it. Now it's gonna let me select the first point. My first point is gonna be 15.680. Okay. It's asking me to specify elevation. Is that the elevation what I want? Yes, because we already apply elevation to that point. Now if I run my mouse cursor along my future line and I get to the next point which I've got apply elevation, which in my case is 15.600, I'm gonna click enter. Now it's gonna say, right, do you wanna specify grade, or your grade is this? My grade is this because my next point is with elevation, already with elevation which I need. I'm gonna press enter and enter again, so it's gonna regrade all the levels between the points I selected. We're gonna repeat exactly the same process with the next few points where we have any levels apply. So I may literally click up on top of that level or up on top of that level. I'm gonna just slide down to my next available point with level. I'm gonna click OK, and now it's gonna regrade the levels on all the points between this point and that point. Let's click enter to complete the regrading, and one more time to refresh the labels. Okay, now let's click again to repeat the command to get again into our set grade function. We don't need any levels up here grading any points here, because we don't have a point in the middle between the two proposed levels which we already apply. But what we can do, we can regrade between that point and this point. Enter again. There you go. We can see our girl level at the moment is gonna be 15.1. So it looks like everything is gonna run back this way. Let's select our future line again. Select this level and the next, enter, and the next level, which is gonna be 14.9. We can press enter again and enter again, and you can see we have our level along the line. Refresh. Okay, we want to repeat the same process until there is no any zero levels left. Future line again, this one, that level. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna switch my selection cycle, because I'm getting really annoyed all the time I need to click OK. Right, it doesn't really matter. Back to this point. I have no points in between, but I do have some points up here. So this is where we wanna start again. Let me press cancel. Okay, I'm gonna start from that point where I'm 15.500, going to the next point, which is 15.550. Gonna press enter. You can see how my levels are gonna change along. Let's make our level slightly smaller by decreasing the scale. Now this way I can actually see what is happening over here. Okay, we can see we are falling back towards this end, from this end, sorry. Where is our next gully and what is the next gully height? 15.500. It's not massively different in here. 15.6. Okay, so we're gonna cross-fall along that channel, which looks like demarcation, and then everything is gonna be picked by that gully and that gully. Okay, that's fine. As long as we don't have a flat place where all the water is gonna accumulate and stay in there without moving, yeah, we're good to continue. Okay, so let's see if we got any more zeros anywhere across. I can see one in here, but let me show you what's gonna happen if I select my model again, go to Object Viewer, and switch our camera perspective to front. We still got one spike. Okay, we knew about it because we can see it. It's up here. We can fix that quite easy. But let me show you another way you can identify if you got any zero levels left. You can go to Elevation Editor, and if you start scrolling along your elevations, straight away you're gonna see the one which indicates zero, and there's a massive grade between them, between that point and the next point. Okay, if we scroll all the way up and down, we should not see any massive grades like that. Okay, so what I can do now, I can manually change my elevation to whatever I want. In my case, it could be 15.525, 525, which is gonna be the middle between that point and that point. Okay, or I can just use the set grade tool. Sorry, set grade tool. I can click on that point, scroll along, and set to this point. Okay, you can see the difference because that the gully is slightly more away from the point what we create. Okay, and it's less than the what we calculate is going to be halfway. 25 is going to be somewhere up here. Okay, so with this one we're pretty much complete with our editing the levels, setting levels along our line, shaping the corners and everything else. We can double check, right button, Object Viewer, and switch the camera perspective to front again to make sure everything looks correct, and I am actually happy with that what I'm seeing. I'm not seeing any depth level. I can possibly change something along here. What I notice again quite a big bit of same level, flash level. Okay, I can see my DPC is 15.675, and I can, the way I understand it, they're creating some sort of (675, 680). They literally create a level axis. The problem is we're slightly higher at this end, and when it starts raining, all the water is going to run down this way. If we're using a flat top edges, I know for that specific model they're going to be using bull nose edges with the 25mm upstamp, but again I prefer adjusting the line slightly more, putting the edging line slightly down from the finish floor level, and not a lot. Again, it has to be a level axis for the disabled purposes. Apologize. So we don't want to create a sharp or too much fall where it's going to be a need a more human force or power for a wheelchair to climb the ramp. We don't want to create a ramp. What we want to do is just slightly dropping the edging line down, plus it's going to help to the water run along the channel. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to change, we're going to go again, let's select the set grade tool. Okay, let's click on this one, 68,600. We say, yeah, that's the level we want. Let's keep that point and go all the way back to the next level, which is going to be 15.600. So now what's going to happen? Well, we got 15.680 and it's at that level. Yeah, it's going to drop that level a little bit down, regrading everything between this point and the next one. And if I press enter and enter again, you can see my level drop down by maybe 40 mil, which 40 mil is not that bad for such a short distance. I mean, yeah, we can lift it just a slightly bit up. Yeah, instead of being 640, can go slightly high, but it's absolutely fine. It won't massively affect anything. We're gonna be something like a 35 mil lower than the DPC, which is not gonna cause a massive issue. Especially, I think it's about 1.2 meter distance or something similar. Oops, apologize. I should use a line. Okay. Yeah, it's a meter distance. What we can do, we can create 1 in 40 in our case. Okay, let's select from this one to the next one. Let's see how that's gonna change. Apologize. Okay, 680 on this one, and now we can go all the way back to here. Let's create, select enter. Okay, 15.622. This one is even worse, so that's what I expected. Okay, let's go to 15.680. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna traverse exactly the same level back to here, 16.680. Okay, let's go again from this point. What we can do, this we can literally drop that to apologize. Let's go to edit elevation. We can put this one about 25 mil lower, so we can create 1 in 40 ramp in here. So that's gonna be 15.650. So let's go 15.650 level. Okay, let's click OK and then regrade or set our grade between this point, which is going to be 650 to probably 600. Okay, let's go enter and enter, and there you go. Now our level is much more better from that what we had. We're slightly lower by 25 mil lower in here. There ain't gonna be a water accumulating on this point. The crossflow is gonna have his work back towards that gully in this instance, and the long flow is gonna keep everything else back towards that gully, and again back to here and back to here. Okay, once we got our future line created, now we can create a surface for ourselves. Let's go create a quick surface. We're gonna call this one driveways. Okay, now this is our surface. Let's expand the drop downs. So driveways, the first thing you want to do is make sure when you select your surface, right click, and let's make sure that every time when we do any changes to the surface, every time when we add something to the surface or delete something from the surface, we want the surface to rebuild by itself. When I say rebuild, is we want to redraw, refresh, you call it whatever you want, okay? But every time when there is a changes, you have to or manually rebuild the surface or to be done automatically or automatic. Okay, so next step is under definitions, expand definitions, and you can add your line work as a break line. Okay, let's select our future line, go under break line, add, you can call this one driveway. I can't remember what was the plot number, something like 456. Okay, so drives 456 to 500, for example. It doesn't really matter. I can put ch on the front just to indicate it's a channel, but nah, I'm just gonna keep that. Yeah, let's leave it like a channel drives. It doesn't really matter what is your description on the break line. Let's press OK. And what's gonna happen now? It creates the future line, not future line, apologize. It creates boundary of my new surface. The problem is that boundary doesn't exactly match my shape, is it? And if we check the surface, okay, it's completely different shape of that what we just create. Why is that? The reason for that is all the triangles. So every surface, what the surface are, a 3D, a thin surface is a mesh. Imagine it's a virtual mesh created from triangles. It's actually vertices who create the triangles. All the triangles connect all together. It's difficult to explain what exactly the surface is, but imagine it's a lot of triangles, as you can see here, who connect between all your vertices. The problem here is there is triangles which needs to be trimmed. Triangles are outside your boundary. Triangles created when the software calculates your vertices because it's not exactly sure where your boundary is. You have to install that additionally. Creates that kind of surfaces, vertices connected between each other with triangles. So it's difficult to explain, but what we're going to do, I'm going to show you how you manually you can trim your triangles, or you can use a boundary to trim all the triangles outside your line work. So the first method is going to be, for the first method, we're going to need to change our surface style. Okay. We're going to need to change our surface style from standard to triangles, or we need to show the triangles. Okay. If I change my style to triangles, okay, now I can see the triangles outside my boundary. Okay, like example for them, they now should be here. I should have shape, line, and surface going along this edge, and that's what I'm gonna do. Okay, let me escape. No any selection. Now I'm gonna select my surface. I'm gonna go once when I click on surface. Notice how is my ribbon change. My ribbon change to show me the properties and the editing tools for the surface. Okay, now you can see it's a thin surface. Keep in mind again these properties which you won't be able to find until you select your object of type thin surface. Okay, once you create your thin surface, you see your properties up here. Your ribbon change to adopt the properties for editing surface. There you go. Now if you go in that edit surface drop down, you will see it's going to give you a couple of different options. One of them is delete line. This is the surface which allows you to trim the triangles. So if I click on delete line, then if I come down here, what I'm going to do, using the mouse, holding the left button, dragging to the left, so is that green fog. I don't know how to, semi-transparent color. Yeah, it is. I'm gonna go over all the lines just like this. Okay, and then I'm gonna let the button. So this one, look what's happening. Select all the lines of my triangles. If I press enter, I'm gonna literally execute the command to delete the lines, because we are under delete lines now command. So let's press enter, and there you go, the lines has been deleted. Right, let's press enter one more time to escape outside of that command. As we have still the thin surface selected, we can right click and go to object viewer, so we can actually see what changed on our surface. And you can see now we got nice and good trim edge all along here. This is the one way, by going around trimming your, let's call it external triangles, okay, by using delete line. Or if you're gonna use this surface as individual model, I mean, you won't have, if you don't want to create more and more surfaces, more and more break lines into this surface, yeah, so what you can do, you can redraw another driveway and you can put it under exactly the same surface. And what's going to happen, you're going to create triangles joining them two surfaces, and what you can do is just delete the triangles in between. But then if you're going to use only that line work, okay, you can use the boundary properties to instruct your boundary to cut everything outside your line work, to trim all the triangles outside. Okay, how you can do that is by simply selecting your apologize, let's go to our selection cycle. Let's turn it on so we can select the future line. Okay, not the surface, the future line. So I'm going to select my future line. Right, see what's going to happen as soon as I say right, add that future line, that line work to my boundary. And when I say add to that, what I want to be type outer. So type outer, okay, boundary is going to trim every single triangle which is outside my line work. Okay, let's see what will happen. Let's press OK. And there you go. Now there is no more triangles outside my line work or my boundary. And if we select the surface, go to object viewer again, and now you can see our surface is nicely neat trim along the edges. Okay, now what additional things we can do, I'm going to show in the next tutorial how you can actually analyze your surface better by creating your own surface tiles. So in our case, we got slope arrows up here indicating which way everything is going to go. Okay, then we can use the contours. I got a couple contours created over here, 25 to 25 minor, 50 mil major contours, 500 to 100, 250 to 500 contours, 500 to 1 meter contours. Okay, so you can create any label styles, any surface styles. One of them, one of the really important one is the heat maps. Okay, like I said, I create the styles that are part of my template. So every time when I work with that template, I have all them styles. I can have only points only, or I can have border only as well, nothing else. The surface is still there. If I hover, it's going to show me what exactly the elevation is along that surface. Okay, let's go back to triangles. What we're going to do now, we're going to delete that surface, and we're going to delete the future line, because now it's time to show you how you can actually create the future lines directly by using the create future line option, or drawing a future line as you go. Because my current layer, okay, is driveways, I'm gonna select here use current layer. I'm gonna press OK. Now it's gonna ask me for my first point. My first point is gonna be here. It's gonna ask me to specify elevation. I'm gonna type 15.5. Then I'm gonna go to the next point. Okay, specify elevation, or it's giving me already predict 15.5. I don't want to be 15.5. I'm going to be 15.65. Okay, I'm going to go to the next point. Again, it's trying to predict what is going to be the next number for me. It's going to be 15.680. Okay, we're going to be 15.680 again. As you can see, this one is not that bad, but the disadvantage is if you make mistake, you can undo. If you undo, you can lose your whole process. So I always suggest do not undo. Okay, let's select, we say this one is going to be 25 mil lower. We're going to be 15.50, 650, apologize, 650 in here. Let's go to the next point. Now, because we don't have any elevation given here, I'm going to type 0. I won't apply any elevation. What we're going to do later on, we're going to regrade again between this point and that point. 0 again. Okay, let's create more zeros. We can go with arc as well. Okay, arc. Back to this point. What I'm going to do, I'm going to create arc here, 0, arc here, 0, and arc here, which is going to be 0. Let's go up to that point where it looks like we're going to be 15.53, 15.53, and the last point is going to be 15.450. So 15.450. Let's go back to line. As you can see, this one is slightly more easier to work with, but again, you have to be really cautious what level you're applying, because it's trying to predict in here your next level. So I'm gonna go 15.2 on this one. Again, I'm gonna create 0 level here. On the next point, I'm gonna be 15.05. 0 level by the gully again. 14.9. 15.05. This one is going to be 0 level. You can put a 15.1, 15.1 level here. 15.15 level on this one. This one is going to be 0 again. Again, everywhere where you don't have any proposed level, just put 0 in there. So later on you can actually identify where that level you need to regrade is. Okay, 15.28. 15.45. 15.6. 15.500. Okay, again we can use arc here. Let's select arc. No, it doesn't really work again correctly. Let's create one. Okay, let's go to the next point. This one is going to be 0 again, and we have some level here which is going to be 15.500. The next one is going to be 15.550. 15.500 again. 15.450. And with this we can close our future lines once for all. Okay, so again, what we can do, we can select our future line and we can add our labels. Let's add our labels. What we're gonna do, we're gonna go select our labels, select similar, and let's change, general line segment to be to something to show us the levels. Okay, now we can see all the zeros. Again, over here we got exactly the same problem with that arc, because it's a curve. I don't have a curve label style to show me the levels. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna select my future line. I will explore it once, which is gonna return my is gonna convert my future line from object type future line to object type polyline. So let's press X for explode and press enter. There you go. Now this is a 3D polyline. Let's convert this one back to a future line. Create future line from object. Use select the entity. Okay, and now this is a future line again. So let's reapply our labels. Okay, select all the labels by selecting one, then right click, select similar, and change your label style to elevation, elevation and dy elevation and z. Right, with this one so far, again, exactly the same process, similar to the previous one. We're gonna go between all the points with already applied elevation to and regrade between the first point and second point where we have level, set grade along all the levels with non-given elevation between. Okay, again, let's select our future line and let's go to set grade. Let's select the first point, let's slide along. Okay, click to the second point, and if you click one more time for enter, you're gonna apply the grade between the 2 points. If you press one more time enter, you're gonna finish the command and it's gonna refresh the screen, redraw the screen. Now we can see all the levels, how they change. Let's go to the next one. Okay, let's again give a quick look on our line work or our 3D lines under front perspective of the camera. We can see we got quite a lot of spikes. That's gonna be very easy to be fixed. Again, we need to chase all the zero elevation, all the vertices with the zero elevation. So we can select our line work, we can go to elevation editor, and we can scroll down until we see the zeros. Okay, so we got 0 here. Okay, we got 0 here, we got 0 here, we got quite a lot of zeros along that radius again. One more 0 here. Yeah, like I say, it's quite easy to identify where your zeros are. Okay, let's go back. Let's go back to our line work. What we're gonna do, we're gonna regrade between this point and that point. Okay, let's click that point, skip that, go to the next one where we got proposed level, click OK, and OK again. Okay, I'm not gonna go out from the command, I'm gonna carry on going until I got everything fixed. Okay, let's select my future line again, go between that point and that point. Just gonna switch the selection cycle so it doesn't constantly ask me if I wanna select the future line. Okay, let's select between this point and that point. Okay, this one is fine. This one is fine. This is the points where we wanna regrade. Again, this is the point where we can create our high point. Okay, so let's click specify grade. The moment is 0 because we are 15.500 here, 15.500 here. Okay, it doesn't really work well. What we can do, okay, let's finish that. Let's click OK. It's completely flat level here. We don't want to be completely flat. We want to create just like a little high point here, which is going to push the water this way and then this way as well. Okay, both ways. So we're going to create just a like a probably 50 mil high point. It won't massively affect our crossfall. It's going to actually help to our crossfall to be a little bit more better structure. Okay, so let's go to insert elevation point, and we're going to insert elevation point somewhere here. That elevation point is going to be 50 mil higher from that end and that end. You can add it somewhere here as well. It's not a big issue as long as you got high point in this end, which is working really well. You need a high point in this end, as long as you don't have a completely flat surface, because we had one on this end. Yeah, so we're gonna end up with no long fall. This is mean that you're gonna be a water stuck in here. Okay, let's type 15.550. Okay, let's enter and enter again. What we're gonna do again is regrade that little radius. Okay, back towards that point. So let's go with set grade 2. We're gonna click from here, slide along our cursor along our line, back to that top, enter and enter again. Now we can see how the level of change. We can do exactly the same with that point. So we can actually delete that point. I don't need that point. What I want everything to fall from here to here. I don't want to create a flat level here. It doesn't want to affect anything, but let's delete that point. Okay, and I think with this one we actually managed to fix quite quick our model. Let's double check by selecting the model, then go to object viewer. Let's click to front, and as you can see, we have exactly the same result. It just we create a future line slightly different. Okay, so let's create again another surface. First I'm going to select my future line, then I'm going to go to surface, create surface. I'm going to call this one again driveways, something like 459 to 500. It doesn't really matter. What I can do, I can change my style straight from here. So I can select my triangle styles. Okay, and when it creates a surface, I will see the triangle straight away. Okay, let's first thing again is make sure is every time when we edit something on our surface, it's going to rebuild automatic. Let's go under definitions, break lines, and add our surface as a break line. Okay, let's call this one channel again. And there you go, we have our surface. Let's just double check it. Again, it needs trimming along the edges. Okay, I'm happy with it. Okay, let's go to boundaries. First, let's select our future line. At the moment, I'm selecting my surface, so that's why I'm gonna turn my selection cycle on. I'm gonna cancel everything. I'm gonna select again, and for my selection cycle, I'm gonna select future line. Let's go back to boundaries and add our future line as outer boundary. And that's gonna trim all the external triangles. Let's double check again. Okay, let's go to front view. And as you can see, we got nice and tidy surface created. Let's double check to make sure our drainage is working correctly. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna use that little tool, which is common part of the one of the analysis tools for surfaces. It's called water drop. So it simulates like you dropping water, and you can see where the water is gonna go. In our case, we can see everything is running down towards that point. Yeah, then it's been taken over to this point. Again, this is our highest level in here. So based on what I see, okay, we should bounce back towards that gully. Okay. Okay, the water drop, it doesn't exactly work the way I imagine it's gonna work, is because it follows the triangles. Okay, so if we have the line here and here, okay, instructing the triangles to connect with that line, I can actually show you. Let me delete all the water drops and let me draw a line. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna hide that surface just for the moment. So I'm gonna go isolate object, isolate the selected object. Oops, apologize, other way around. Or I can just switch off 0. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna create a line from here, okay, to here, to here. Okay, let me join that line, and that should be a 3D polyline if I'm not wrong. Okay, we need to change one of the vertices, so I'm starting from 15.150, which is my first vertex, apologize, is here 15.160. Then I can change, right, I can manipulate everything from here, or I can convert that into a future line. It doesn't really matter. What I need is to correct that point in here, because at the moment that point is with level 0. So what I can do, I can just change my vertex point by clicking, just cycle through the current vertex count. Okay, let's select vertex Z, apologize. Okay, and change this one to be to 15.380. Let's go to the next vertex, which is down here, because I didn't snap exactly to what I need to snap. Yeah, we got 0 at the moment. That's supposed to be 15.5. Okay, let's cycle again for the vertices to make sure we're to the correct level, and it does look like we're to the correct levels. Okay, so what we can do, we can select that line, 3D polyline, and just add it to our surface as a break line. So you can add as many as you want break lines. Okay, let's call this one internal channel, in case we need to delete that one. And now when I press OK, you will notice, let's bring our surface back. You will see our triangles is gonna literally be instructed to follow and tie to that line we have. So let's go back to 0 level layer, and you can see now we're creating a triangles between all that line between them two levels. Additionally, what we can do, we can select the polyline. I can hover over and I can add vertex, but I will create a future line from that object, from that line. Okay, select an entity. I'm gonna select that future line. Okay, I'm gonna go to insert elevation point, and I can add a couple more elevation points. As soon as I start adding elevation points, you can see how I'm creating more and more triangles along. So a good surface is a surface with good triangles. Okay, as you can see, the triangulation is slightly bit better now. We can add another channel between this point, that point, and that point, and that is going to improve our triangulation even better. Let's actually do it. Okay, let's again switch over layer 0, because this is where our surface is currently located. What we're going to do, we can go and start again creating a future line. We're going to create, use the current layer again. I'm going to start from that point. We're going to be 15.05. I'm happy with that level. Then I'm going to go to the next point, which is going to be 15.22. And then again, I'm going to create a 0 point here, because I don't know what the level is going to be. 0 point here, 0 point here, and again I'm going to join with that point where I'm supposed to be 15.450. I didn't type the level. What I'm going to do, I'm going to select that future line. I'm going to go to my quick elevation editor. Okay, so let's see, we should have 2 points here. One of them should be 0, which is this one. Is going to be 15.450. Okay, this one is already 15.220. What I'm going to do, I'm going to set grade again between this point and all the points back to that one. And now I believe if I select all the future lines, let's go select similar and go object viewer, you should not see any spikes, and all the channels supposed to tie nice and smooth together. Let's go to the front perspective. It does look nice and decent model. Okay, so let's show our surface again, and let's add that future line to our surface and see how everything is going to change. You can see how at the moment all the triangles again bouncing from vertex to vertex. Okay, what I think I'm gonna do as well, let me select that future line. I'm gonna add a couple more points along that edge line just to create a few more triangles. It's good if you just tidy up your surface slightly more. Okay, I can actually add one more here. That's fine. Let's go back out. Let's select our new future line. I cancel everything, select only your new future line, and add it as a break line to your surface. So let's go, this one is going to be internal channel 2, internal channel 2. Okay, this is the point where we just add our new future line. You can see all the triangles start connecting with that new future line. Let's add a couple more elevations along, just to tidy up that surface slightly bit better. Okay, let's escape. Let's go and create our external line work, future line, and create couple points along that edge. so we can create nice, bit more nice and decent triangles. Okay, same again. Once we create the future line, once we select the future line, go to insert elevation point and just create a couple points along it. Like I say, more triangles, better it is. As long as we look nice and tidy. Okay, that looks really good up here. Yeah, I'm happy with that model. Probably up here we can create a couple more triangles, just so we can make the model look slightly more dense. Okay, I think that's gonna be enough. Okay, so from this point it looks like the model looks really good. Let's double check to make sure we didn't cause any spikes. Create something like a zero elevation. Yeah, model looks really nice and dense. You can actually, by the way, make it even more dense than that, but I'm gonna show you that when we start working with surfaces. Right, so from this point, again, what we can do, we can select a surface, so we can have our surface ribbon with all the editing and analyzing surface analyzing tools. We can go to water drop. Okay, let's press OK, and we can drop a couple. Right. So as you can see, everything is cross-falling back to this end, back towards that gully, and again back towards. Everything is going to run back down towards that gully down here. Okay. But you can see now with the new triangles, it's much more better. And again, keep in mind this is going to be some sort of demarcation. I'm guessing it's going to be an edging line, okay, which is going to drive all the water along back towards them gullies. No, actually them gullies, they should be on the other side in that instance. Yeah, I think them gullies are just to pick up all the surface water crossing by. Obviously, as you can see, everything is running back this way, so them gullies are gonna pick as much as they can. Personally, I will design this one to be with double gully in this end. Okay, as you can see, everything else is gonna run long fall and cross fall and short fall. They both create a cross fall down to that corner. Let's try to see what's gonna happen in here. Okay, let's delete all that. What I'm gonna do now, I'm gonna use my contours to analyze the surface a bit better. I'm gonna go 25 mil, and I can see I got plenty of crossfall, and I got plenty of both long fall and short fall. Let's call it short fall, so we can see everything is falling back this way. To be honest, I'm not really amazed with that little bit in here, but again, it shows it's gonna work. So we're creating like a high point here, pushing this way and that way towards this gully, and then from here we're creating another high point pushing back towards this gully and down this way. So as you can see, the drainage is gonna work better with the little changes we apply. Let's change to slope arrows so we can see what's gonna happen. You see the red ones, this is indicates it's a quite low level of fall in here. Same again here, but again in general, no arrow is falling away from a gully. Everything is running how it should be. Probably this should be a slightly more forward this way, but it is the design. I would personally add slightly more long fall, but again, this is how the design is. So with this one, we literally can finish our future lines tutorial, future lines and surfaces tutorial for today. In the next tutorial, I'm going to try to explain a little bit more in depth about surfaces. In the next tutorial, again, we can have a look on the different surface styles. We can have a look how we can create cut and fill model as well between two surfaces. And yeah, thank you for watching. I'm gonna see you in the next video tutorial.